Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's District Administration Web Seminar, which is entitled Summer Construction and Beyond, Prioritizing COVID-19 Safety and Stimulus Funding, which is brought to you by the generous support of our sponsor, Gordian. Before we get started, I would just like to share just a few housekeeping items with you all today. For technical support, please use the chat panel, which you can find on the right side of your screen. Then select on my name, which is Stephen Blackburn, and then type your message if you're having any technical issues, and I should get to them promptly. If you don't have computer speakers, or maybe you prefer to listen privately, you can dial the phone number and access code that I'll be posting in the chat window in a few moments, so look out for that. We will also be welcoming any questions that you have today with a Q&A session that will take place at the end of the presentation. To submit a question, just please use the Q&A panel, which you can see at the bottom right side of your screen, and then send your questions to all panelists, which should be the default option. If you don't see the chat or the Q&A panels, again, look to the right side of your screen and then click on the expand triangle, which is located directly in front of the panel name to make sure you have access to it. Also, something important to note, last thing, is if you would like to access the web seminar at a later time, you'll be pleased to note that everyone who is registered and who is attending today will receive an email with a link to the slide as well as an archive recording. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you all today the moderator for today's webinar, DA's very own Pete Gorman, who is our superintendent in residence here at DA. Hi, Pete. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. A pleasure to be with you all today, and hope you are all healthy and safe and doing well in this unprecedented time. Definitely unprecedented. Going back more than 100 years to look at when we've experienced something similar. So I'm Pete Gorman. I am superintendent in residence with district administration. I am the former superintendent of schools in Charlotte, North Carolina, as well as the superintendent of the Tustin Unified School District in Tustin, California. And I had the pleasure of being engaged in a lot of summer construction work during my time, and also in that really condensed summer block, how to get things done in that time. Joining us today, first I want to introduce Arsenio Romero. Arsenio, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Pete. Thank you for introducing me. My name is Arsenio Romero. I am the superintendent of schools for Los Lunas Schools. And just to put that in context for everyone out there listening today, we are in central New Mexico. I'm about 10 minutes south of Albuquerque. We're really a suburb of Albuquerque. We've got about 8,500 students. Really, the community that we serve is going to be the village of Los Lunas, along with the students that live within the county of Valencia. But we also serve our partners that reside within our Isleta Pueblo, our native students. So much of our population revolves around native students, Hispanic students, of course, low socioeconomic students, and of course, at-risk students.
Very good. And we'll come back to you a little more in just a minute with a little more about your district. But I also want to introduce Jenny Ramirez. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us about yourself and what you do at Gordian?
Good afternoon, Peter. Yes, I have been with Gordian for just over 3 years now, and I am the senior account manager, which handles all JOC needs within our state. I was recently retired from the city of Albuquerque and the University of New Mexico after 23 years of an associate procurement officer in the construction management procurement area.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And I know you mentioned JOC. We're going to learn about job order contracting. We're going to learn more about that coming up in just a moment. And I know you're working on these projects in Los Lunas. Now, Los Lunas, what's the status for your schools right now, Arsenio? Where are you right now with teaching and learning?
Absolutely. Well, just like you mentioned, this has been an unprecedented year for all of us in public education across this country. That is no different right here in Los Lunas. We are moving from really a 100% virtual environment due to the COVID pandemic, and we have recently started to roll into an in-person learning environment, but also still providing that environment of virtual learning. So really, it's a hybrid environment where we're trying to provide a world-class setting for both in-person and virtual students. And right now, we're getting ready for next year. Of course, as we start to roll into the spring semester, that's what we're doing. We're already thinking about next year, and a big part of that is what happens over the summer. Many of those things are really revolving around safety and security. And as we have parents that are going through this transition with us and evolving of what our new learning environment is going to look like, what's really on their minds is safety, security, and making sure that those students are continuing to be in that safe classroom environment. And that's really what we're doing, is really trying to upgrade our facilities to be able to meet the needs that our parents and students are demanding.
All right, so let's take a look at that. Let's dive in a little deeper. We know that we are definitely in a unique time, as we shared. And as we think about that, I'm doing work all across the nation with school districts. And as I work with them, what I'm hearing is safe, secure, reliable. That's what they're reliable environment, security. And as they're doing that, there's the upkeep and the general maintenance that needs to be taken care of that would normally go on. But wow, we're hearing about HVAC work like we've heard about that before. And we did a little research before coming on to do this. And the American Society of Civil Engineers did some recent work. 53% of public school districts share they have some of HVAC and other multiple reasons that they need work done in their schools right now. And Jenny, here's a challenge. We all want it done this summer. Come get it done this summer. So we know that we're facing those challenges. We've got other places that, as they're looking at this, say, wait a minute. We want to make sure that we don't just use recycled air. We use air that has been cleaned. In some cases, there's people that are turning off their HVAC systems, which is clearly not the answer to do. The research has shown that is not the answer for what to do. We've got to provide that proper ventilation and filtration, yet provide fresh air from the outside. Doing all of that work when it's least disruptive to the campus environment. But as all that's going on, we got more money than we've ever seen coming into schools. Having been a superintendent, Arsenio, during the time of the ARA funds, I thought I'd never see money like this. Now, Arsenio, you've got to keep track of CARES Act money. You've got an increase in allocation based on Title I allotment. You've got the CRISA dollars, which is coming to you. The American Rescue Plan. You've got other specific dollars that might be coming from your individual state. You've got to make sure that you're doing things and you are making wise decisions, but you've got to align it to your plan. Or align this to plan. How do you strategize? How do you align it to your plans? How are you thinking about that?
You're right, Pete. Even if we go back to prior COVID, prior pandemic, we had a 5-year plan in place. This is where we're really looking at upgrading our facilities to really meet the needs of safety and security concerns at our buildings. Our oldest buildings were built back in 1930s, all the way up to buildings that were built just a few years ago. So we have a whole range of technology within our systems. And as we started to roll into COVID and the pandemic, it added continued concerns. And you're exactly right. I never thought I would be an expert, and I feel like I'm getting to that expert level when it comes to HVAC systems and air quality. But that's another added aspect to what we've been having to do to be able to make sure that our classrooms continue to be a world-class environment, but also meet the needs when it comes to the current reality that we live in with the pandemic. So you're right. We have to be able to look at current projects that we had before, really looking at our local bond projects and making sure those are continuing to move forward, but also managing all these federal dollars to be able to make sure that we can do the right thing at the right time so that we leverage this money to be able to affect us positively for years and decades to come. And that's really what we're looking at, some of the projects that we're going to be talking about today, and what we're doing in Los Lunas to be able to meet the demands, the needs that we have in today's time, especially with the change in the classroom environment moving forward.
Well, let's jump into some of those current projects right now. And can you tell us a little bit about this work that's going on in Los Lunas right now?
Absolutely. So I talked about some of the projects that we had really even prior to COVID really had to do with safety and security. These are things that public schools have been working on for years to be able to make sure that our facilities are going to be safe for all of our students and all of our staff. Some of those are the ideas of security vestibules. What those are is the idea to be able to control how the public enters your building, so where that happens, and once they enter your building, what does it look like and what do they have access to? So if you think about some of the older buildings, maybe when you went to school and you think about what those schools look like, you had, as you walk in the front doors, you might have had immediate access to some students. Sometimes the most vulnerable students, our kindergartners, our first graders. What this is doing now is creating this vestibule or this area that we can actually contain anybody coming in to visit the school until we give them access to the school. And this has been instrumental in making sure that we can create that safe environment. But it's also making sure that the public doesn't have access to anywhere on the campus. It really allows for the public to come in, and we're able to drive what that traffic is going to be like through the front doors and not anywhere else. And this is really where you get down to being able to have the correct fencing and sidewalks in place to make sure that happens. We're also talking about security cameras, making sure that we know what's happening throughout our building. And then we're also doing some really great work when it comes to our school resource officers. Los Lunas has really taken the next step to where we really have our own police force. We've got a certified police officer at every school that is an employee of Los Lunas schools. And what we want them to be is really a part of that school community. And as you walk into to the front of the buildings with those school vestibules, you're also going to have direct access, and the first person you're going to meet is going to be that school resource officer. And they're able to interact with the community, interact with students, interact with parents in a very positive light. But they're also very instrumental in making sure that our campuses remain secure and safe throughout the day and every day.
So with this work we're doing, Jenny, do you have any additional insights about this work and how you've been partnering with Los Lunas on this additional work?
Yes, Pete. With these projects for fencing, security fencing, the district needed to move very quickly on deploying a contractor to site to get this jobs up and running. So our JOC contracts allowed the district to, as simple as scheduling a site visit with our contractor, with Gordian, create a scope of work, have our client approve that scope of work, and then approve a price proposal and straight to PO issued, which saved the district at least 3 to 4 weeks in deploying these projects. So it's not only allowed them to access local contractors, but to deploy projects quickly, as well as save time and money.
Now, it strikes me, with all of us fighting to do summer construction at the same time, Arsenio and Los Lunas is not the only school district in the metropolitan Albuquerque area looking to do these similar projects. So Jenny, you've given them the opportunity to get out in front of others from doing this by using some of the tools and systems that you've got in place? That
is correct. Our contractors are ready to go. They have responded to a solicitation, a job order contracting solicitation, which allows them an indefinite quantity contract to move projects quickly through our system with preset pricing. Contractors are required to use our construction task catalog. And once on site, if there's a change in scope of work, they are held to our construction task catalog, which doesn't add any additional travel time or increase in labor, material, and equipment. So it is great that they were able to utilize job order contracting, because it allowed them to move very quickly, in which they were in jeopardy of losing that funding source.
Arsenio, that's certainly sounds like that's a huge, important area for you. Well, let's dive a little deeper, Arsenio, into some of this. So you built the security vestibule, and in that put the school resource officer's office close to that area. You've also done that perimeter security fencing. And look, it's a shame we have to think about things such as with the number of school-related incidents we've had. I know that that's got to be up front in one of the first items that you're looking at, Arsenio, and you've got to do. But Arsenio, you've also had to do some sort of temporary things, haven't you, as you about getting schools ready? Talk to us about this picture on the screen, temporary responses you've had to do.
Absolutely. So when we talk about the idea of increasing air quality within our schools, I talked about the different technology that we have. Some are better and newer than others. Some of them are older and quite really can't get to the level that we want them to be at. So some of the requirements that our state has put into place for us in New Mexico is that we need to be able to filter our air and at what was called a MERV 13 filter. That's a very high rated filter. None of our current HVAC systems are designed to be able to accept those MERV 13 filters. And it also requires that we have a certain percentage of air exchange every hour. And so what we've done is we've got a plan in place to be able to upgrade, but it's not going to all happen at one time. It's going to be something that we have to actually implement over the next few years. So some of the things that we're doing right now is to be able to actually put in standalone air filtration devices in the classrooms. And that's the picture that you see to the right, that box there. It's working beautifully. We've got these deployed in over 700 classrooms across our district. What it does is it does not disrupt the educational environment. It's very quiet, very easy to use. And it basically has those high-level filters built in through a typical MERV 13 filter, goes through numerous filters, also a charcoal filter, and then comes out through a UV light. So we know that the air that is coming out is going to be clean, and we're able to exchange that air within a classroom twice every hour. The picture to the left is that you see that this is the world that we have coming in with students, is to be able to make sure that those students are healthy and safe and ready to learn. And that is a standalone temperature monitor. And what's great about that is you stand right in front of it. It's able to very quickly take the temperature of anybody coming into the school, and you get a little green check mark. And once you get that, you're able to have entrance to the school. If you have any kind of temperature, it's going to have a little red X, and we can very quickly process literally hundreds of students within actually a few minutes. These are some of our short-term plans that we have that's going to help guide us into the long-term solutions that we have moving forward, especially for some of our older facilities, to get them up to speed with what we need them to be at, as you know, for future years.
Let's talk about those long-term plans. So Arsenio, you don't have the staff to have a full-time major construction team all the time on the job as the work ebbs and flows. You don't have that. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so I talked about Las Lunas being a district of about 8,500 students. In New Mexico, this is a relatively mid-sized district. And so this is the partnership that we have with Gordian has been so important and so beneficial to our district, because they're allowing us to be able to move these projects quickly. They're able to do the work behind the scenes to make sure that, one, we're on time, we get the best prices possible, and we have the projects done when we need them to be done. And that's what's been so amazing about this. You're right, we don't have all the staff to be able to do this all the time. So if you are a district that's smaller and don't have that construction staff, or whether you're a district that is larger and you have multiple projects going on throughout your district, Gordian has been an excellent partner to help us make sure that we get these done on time at a high quality, making sure that we use local vendors, and we know exactly what that budget's going to be like so we can prepare for those projects.
So Jenny, can you just share a little bit about that, about how you're managing those summer work schedules and tight timelines?
Sure. So a little bit to expand a little bit of what Arsenio indicated. So New Mexico has a lot of small towns and rural areas within our state, which unfortunately do not have the staff or a project manager or sometimes even the facility director to procure some of these projects. So Gordian works with them hand on hand to provide these services. We allow them the flexibility to partner with us, and we provide, so we step in those roles where it needs to be filled, that gap. And we provide them with the comfort of not overpaying for construction or maintenance projects. We are able to bring larger contractors to some of these rural areas in which allow them to complete these projects on a timely basis. One great thing about utilizing Gordian through the job order contracting process is it allows our clients to utilize contractors which have already gone through the competitive bid process, which can save clients anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks from the bidding process. Projects can easily be deployed to meet these tight deadlines that our clients are facing during fiscal year-end deadlines, as well as it's as simple as scheduling a site visit with Gordian and the contractor, a representative from the school. We go out, we meet together, we build a scope of work in which the client has to review and approve to ensure that we have highlighted and captured their entire scope of work for that project. Our contractor then goes back, they build their price proposal. We review it internally through Gordian to ensure for accuracy, scope of work accuracy. Then we present that proposal to our client and we have a proposal review meeting. At that time, we review that proposal in detail with our client. It then gives them the opportunity to address any questions that they may have, or also even address the fact that maybe a proposal may be way out of their budget. It opens the door for our value engineering. It then becomes a collaboration between a team versus just a contractor submitting a bid and you either have to accept it or reject it. So it opens the door for communication between not only the client, the contractor, as well as Gordian.
Very good. And what about this desire to have local contractors engaged and to have access to those local contractors? How do you help with that, Jenny?
So what is great about job order contracting is when a solicitation goes out for advertising, we recruit local contractors for our state, which is very helpful because we engage or promote construction opportunities for our communities. So our clients are then able to access local contractors to complete their needs, complete their project needs.
A little deeper into this facilities and infrastructure management challenge that you're facing. So we know that the demand for investment in facilities is huge and deferred maintenance is unbelievable. The most recent estimate I was able to see done in 2016 showed $271 billion. In 5 years ago, there were that many $1 billion of deferred maintenance projects. And what typically gets deferred? Things like HVAC that can be pushed down the road, unfortunately. So we've got a huge challenge that we're facing there. We've also got a lack of funding for school construction in that there is an irregular flow to those dollars that is often done by bonds and votes and things which are on regular cycle, and there being a massive gap. The most recent spending estimate was the need for $46 billion in terms of investment needs to be made every year across the U.S. to keep up with it. Then, of course, we've got the changing landscape in facilities and changing landscape. Arsenio, you once had a point in time when, before COVID, yes, you wanted fences for some safety reasons, but you never had to worry about fencing to make sure people can enter camps in a way with bypassing a COVID checkpoint.
Exactly.
I know you mentioned to me one of the things is you need single point of ingress and egress so you can do health checks. So the fencing is actually part of your health and safety plan to be doing the checks for COVID. I know you shared that, as well as facility changed, that we no longer always have 30 desks in a row. That has changed on you. And then, of course, we've got that accurate understanding of the basic cost projects are. And unfortunately, and school projects can be as much to 40% off of estimate cost increases if they don't have the true professionals doing the work and helping along the way. And then there's on time budget. Or so I remember you told me that your watchword bond is promises made, promises kept. Can you talk a little bit about that piece with how meeting budgets and timelines has been integral to you and how that's been your goal with this?
Absolutely. So when you enter into a bond with a community, it's really about you making the promises that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And the reality that we're in now is we have multiple pots of money to be able to do some of these projects. And definitely the bond pots of money are still very important to doing this. But with all these federal dollars through CARES, CARISA, and so forth, you want to be able to leverage that as much as you can to be able to accomplish the goals that you have to meet the new realities of our safety and security caused by COVID and the pandemic. And so really, how does one mitigate the effects of COVID on a campus? And you're exactly right. What we're required to do by our local Department of Health is to do a health check for every warm body that comes onto campus, whether you're a student or you are a staff member or you're a parent or visitor. And really, because of how campuses have been built over the decades, it really allowed, especially if you're right in the middle of the neighborhood, it allowed for you to have access to the playground, to the back door, to the side doors. And what we have to do now to be able to mitigate the effects of COVID is have those single points of entry so that we can control who's coming in and off campus and to be able to provide those health checks. So if we can articulate how we're being able to mitigate the effects of COVID, that's how we're able to really leverage these federal dollars to help meet the needs that we have in our current reality and mitigating those effects of COVID moving into the future. So it's all about how you can articulate the needs. Is there a need? How are you going to solve that issue, that problem, that need? And are these federal dollars allowable to be able to help you mitigate those issues?
So let's take a look at some of the ways you get this work done. There's been in-house projects that you've tried to do things that were smaller and in-house, and we certainly saw that stress to a whole new level as you did your reopening plans. You've done CMS, construction manager at risk, you've done design builds, you've done time and materials. There's been all sorts of different things that have been done over time. This concept that we've heard Jenny talk about over and over, job order contracting as a method of delivery. Arsenio, why did you choose JOC or job order contracting as a method for you to get the work done?
What it allows us to do is really expand our capabilities, really allow us to do more with the resources that we have. And what Gordian allowed us to do was be able to take on these additional projects that we saw at rising to the top of our list for importance when it came to safety and security, when it came to HVAC, to be able to make sure that we get these done at a high quality, again, using local contractors. We know that we're going to stay within budget. And really, Gordian allows us to be able to, for me, to continue to do what I love to do, which is educating our students, making sure that they're safe, working with our community partners, and really developing leaders within our district. And Gordian, what they get to do is make sure that these construction projects continue to move forward, and it really takes the stressor off my back to make sure that all these things continue to happen. It's all because of the partnerships we have, and Gordian is definitely part of those partnerships.
So it sounds like this is just, to use our analogy, it's another tool in your toolbox. That's what you've got.
Absolutely. That is 100% accurate. It's something that's allowed us to scale up what our possibilities are and what we can offer. And it's been a great partnership in the past. Our projects right now are going beautifully and on time, and I know that we'll have continued partnerships into the future.
Now, Jenny, in prepping for this, I read that you're doing this work in a lot of school districts around the country. Can you tell us kind of that expanse of how you're doing this work and kind of how broadly this is going on? Can you share some more?
Yes, sir. So let me give a little bit, elaborate a little bit on the definition of job order contracting. And so what JOC is, what we like to tell our clients is it's another tool within their procurement toolbox. It allows them the capability to expand their procurement purchasing power, to access local contractors in which they may not currently have on an on-call contract. So job order contracting is what we call an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract, which allows multiple projects for multiple agencies to be procured through a single contract at a fixed period of time. All projects are based on preset labor, material, and equipment. So what that means is when a client sets up a new job order contracting program within their state, or they have a job order contract that they can access through a joint powers agreement or a co-op, it allows that client the flexibility to pay local prices versus national prices. All our construction task catalogs are set for that particular state for their material, their labor, and their equipment. So they have that guarantee at the end of the day that they're not overpaying for a project. We are also working with a third of the nation's largest public school districts have used Gordian's job order contracting to give students better learning environments. We have partnered and worked with several districts to provide support across the country, from large to small accelerating projects, saving money and streamlining the procurement process. We have assisted school districts from large cities to small rural communities. Here in New Mexico, we have quite a few rural communities which don't have the capability to procure projects on their own, or they just don't have that knowledge. We have our superintendent like Arsenio, who may be wearing multiple hats. One day he may be the superintendent, the other day he may be a maintenance man or a facilities director. So we try to partner up with him and take off some of that load, so that way our school districts feel the support and that it's there for them.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, let's look at some of these projects that are coming forward. We're going to move towards the Q&A part of this, because clearly, Arsenio, you couldn't get this work done without the support of others. That is clear. Can you share with us the types of projects you're looking at doing and what is underway with planning with this federal stimulus dollars, the types of things you're looking at doing with that?
Absolutely, and we've mentioned some of them. Is we want to continue to upgrade our HVAC systems. Right now, we do have those in-classroom HVAC standalone units. Those are going to be something that we use in the immediate future to get us really going this year and next year. But you're going to start to see additional systems projects to upgrade our HVAC systems. It's going to be a partnership that we have using federal dollars, but also state dollars, along with bonds, to be able to leverage as much as we can to make those things happen. Of course, we're going to continue to be able to upgrade our facilities when it comes to those security vestibules, making sure we have single points of entry. Some of those, but there's some other pieces to that, like having security cameras, having electronic access to enter the building, making sure that we have really the sidewalks and the fencing, which also really helps with access for wheelchair access, all these different pieces. So when we talk about really safety and security, mitigating the effects of COVID, but also working to be able to give access to as many students in our community as possible. Also with this, we're going to continue to work on demolishing other projects, some of our older facilities, Gordian has been instrumental in helping us with some of the projects like that. And this particularly comes to mind because we do have some wonderful local contractors, but what Gordian does for us is it makes sure that when we have a project, do those local contractors have the ability to complete the project? Are they scalable enough to be able to handle the kind of projects that we have, whether that be demolition, construction, or even remodeling?
Now, Arsenio, you also talked to me before about looking at things like more hand washing stations in response, not just to COVID, but that needs to be a regular piece in everyday life in schools. You'd mentioned. You'd also mentioned restroom facilities to make sure that you had more proper restroom facilities. Can you talk a little bit about your long-term plan, like renovation of restrooms, hand washing facilities, and other I'm going to call them sort of cleanliness, health, and well-being category. Can you talk about your plan about looking at these funds as well for that type of work?
Absolutely. So it's really upgrading restroom facilities. This is to ensure that can we create environments where it's touchless, so when students come in, they are able to take advantage of the restroom facilities, wash hands, and do all of this without actually having to touch anything when it comes to a button or a light or a handle. So that's one aspect. We're also looking at how we're able to make sure that we create those healthy environments through water fountain stations. So you kind of remember where you have to come down, push the button, kind of get close to it. We're really eliminating a lot of those so that we can have those filtered fill stations for water bottles, so that, again, that allows for that student, that staff member to have their own water, take it back with them. And again, it's touchless, making sure that everything that happens from the classroom to the restroom to the cafeteria, it's really upgrading all of those processes, procedures along the way to make sure that we are mitigating as much as possible when it comes to COVID-related issues. How that means how we stand in line, how we open doors, how we travel through the hallways, who's having access to the restrooms, cafeteria, library, gyms. All these are changing the life of what it looks like at the school on any certain day. And we're adapting to that, but we're a pretty resilient group of people. Our students are pretty resilient also, and it's actually working out really well. But because of the partnerships with people like Gordian, they're allowing this to move even faster and make sure that we do have the proper procedures in place to make sure that this happens. And this is another great idea, is that working with partners like Gordian, they're actually able to help us solve some of the issues that we may not be able to solve. We may not have been able to think of the great ideas, but they've got partnerships with districts all over. And so we're able to actually partner with them and say, this is our problem, what's the solution to that? And they've actually worked with other districts to say, hey, I did this out there, this might be a solution for you here. And that's also been wonderful to be able to brainstorm some of the solutions.
Now, for this part of the Q&A, we've got Jenny, and we also have Scott Lee, who works with Gordian. What are some of the other ESSER-type projects you see places undertaking out there? Yes, we see the safety things, the security things, we see the restrooms. Are there other interesting projects you see districts preparing to do out there that you can share?
Yes, Gordian has been assisting schools across the country be resilient with keeping their students, teachers, and staff safe by procuring renovation, reconfiguration, modification, and installation work related to COVID, such as HVAC upgrades, which we talked about a little bit earlier, to remove the risk mitigation, to help remove particles and pathogens from the air. That's huge that we've seen across the country. Another one is space reconfiguration. Whether it be putting up partitions or barriers to ensure that we have proper spacing between students and staff. Also, we've assisted some of our clients with antibacterial countertops and surfaces, which help eliminate that bacteria growing on countertops. The other thing that we've seen across the country is the hands-free automatic door opening solutions, right. More the hand faucets like Arsenio touched on, the hand sanitation, as well as our card readers and our paper towel dispensers to go sensorless versus having to turn a knob like we were talking about. Even the light occupancy sensors, from, just turning on that simple switch. We've helped the school districts eliminate the risk of their staff and students and faculty to even touching the doorknobs as well as the light switches. So we've helped clients across the country ensure that they have a safe and secure building for not only their students, but staff and faculty and those visitors coming onto campus.
Very good. We've got a question about using carbon dioxide monitoring as a tool for tracking airborne dispersal of COVID-19 and monitoring the performance of HVAC. Arsenio, is that something you've been engaged in? Is that something you're looking at?
I love that. And actually, we did have some conversations about this. Really, when it came to the upgrades in our air filtration systems, our HVAC systems, this has been a conversation that we've had really at the state level, really getting guidance from our public education department and our local and state level Department of Health. You have all these very smart people in the same room being able to talk about how we move as quickly as possible to be able to provide high air quality. And again, every solution has been different because buildings have different capacities, they have different systems, they have different ages. And so really in the end, as part of a task force that we had at the state level, we provided multiple options to be able to meet the needs of different environments. And I'm seeing also, there's some very rural areas. I think I see a question there about schools in Alaska that may be interested in some of the standalone systems. There's also, of course, built-in air scrubbers that you can put into your current ventilation systems, all the way up to retrofitting a whole new HVAC system. So there's a wide range of possibilities and solutions. And these are all things that individual schools and school districts should really explore to be able to make sure that they're meeting the needs of what they can do when it comes to budgetary issues, what will fit within their systems. And also, I'd absolutely recommend not only looking at a solution for today, but looking at a solution long-term to really be able to accept some of those higher-end MERV 13 kind of filters.
Yeah, I hear you say also looking at then the State Department of Ed and the local health department. Jenny, any advice you have about that for some of the latest in dioxide monitoring in that? I would assume you would do that through your partners and engineer partner HVAC work?
So that is correct. The great thing about using Gordian and our job order contracting EasyIQC system is it allows us to go in and meet with the client, hear their needs, and then partner with our contractor as well as either an engineer to go in and design the system that they would need to support their needs for their facility. It's what they need to know is that they're not alone in this process. Gordian is a great resource. Not only are you working with your local Gordian representative, but Gordian as a whole, we are across the country, which we can reach out. We have several resources that we can reach out to other account managers within different states to see what they have done to upgrade their facilities or to see what has worked and what hasn't worked for them. So we're not going down that same rabbit hole for another client. So it allows us to collaborate and bring new ideas to the table with our partnerships in place. So they are not only accessing Gordian, they're also accessing our resources.
So we've got a question. We're having a hard time getting bid invitations out for construction this summer. How are you able to assist with getting the bid invitations out? We have several projects, including restroom, flooring, HVAC. Jenny, I'm going to hand that one to you. That sounds like a Jenny question more than an Arsenio question.
Okay, so that's the biggest complaint that we hear from clients across the United States. That it's hard to get contractors to respond to their solicitation, or even if they do get somebody to respond, the prices are outrageous. So the best way that clients can procure their summer work is, number one, they have the capability to implement their own job order contracting program within their school district. Number two, they have the ability to either access Gordian through a cooperative or a national, like a NJPA contract, a national procurement source, which those contracts are easily available to our clients. What's great about this is whichever contract they utilize, whether it's a co-op or implement their own program, they will be receiving local versus national rates. So that's the best part of this. We have contractors that have already been vetted and gone through the competitive bid process. It's as simple as reaching out to a Gordian representative, working with your local rep, and getting them to find a local contractor that you can utilize. And that contractor is held to our construction task catalog. So there's no additional markup for travel time or any additional markup if there's a scope of work change. They're held to the construction task catalog, which is their adjustment factor times the construction task catalog equals the cost of the project. And by partnering with Gordian, you're ensuring that that proposal is reviewed in detail and that you get an auditable proposal, which is itemized and which is guaranteed to pass an audit at the end of the year.
So I
So
want
we
to
have
talk, Jenny, I want to talk a little bit about that piece you just said, that auditable piece. This work is going to go under more scrutiny than virtually any other construction projects go under. So we've got a piece here that it's got to be transparent. We know that it has to be easily auditable, that there is a paper trail behind the work. For both Jenny and Arsenio, how are you planning and preparing for that, knowing the scrutiny that is going to be coming for this work?
Well, maybe I could just start off by saying this is what I love about working with Gordian is I've got a group of people that know this in and out, and it allows the pressure to come off me so I can spend my time on other important aspects of the district. That's the beauty of this. They are able to find the contractors. They're able to make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's all the way through this whole process so that when audit time comes around, I feel 100% confident that we've done everything correctly. And that's a huge benefit to having a partner like Gordian.
Thank you, Arsenio, for saying that. I appreciate it. So the best thing about working with Gordian, and I'm not only saying this from working on the Gordian side, because I was on the procurement side for 23 years. The best part about partnering with a Gordian account representative is all our contractors that have been competitively bid and awarded a contract are held to what we call our big note, our construction, our contract guidelines. So our contractors have to bid an adjustment factor, which consists of their overhead and profit against our construction task catalog. Our construction task catalog is made up of scope of work line items that consist of labor, material, and equipment. So the price proposal that you will receive is a line item price proposal. Those days of receiving the lump sum proposals, which incorporate labor, material, and equipment, are now off the table. When the proposal is submitted to Gordian, we review it. We go back to our client and we review it with our client. Our client, we go over the proposal line item by line item. We show them that if we are replacing 6 water fountains, there's 6 water fountains that they are being charged for and that are being removed. There's no hidden agendas in any of the price proposal. It's very transparent. It's very easy to read. And if there's any questions, your Gordian account manager is there to review it with you and answer those in detail. And if there's something that, you know, that our client may have a question on, everyone's at the table and everyone is able to provide input and answer how we arrived at a particular scope of work or a particular line item, which makes it very transparent. So at the end of the day, when our clients have to go through that audit review process, they can simply see that 6 water fountains were installed and 6 water fountains were removed. There's no hidden agendas. Everything is transparent. And that's what's great about this process.
All right, so I have a question related to one of the areas that gets audited or looked at, and that's local migrant residency initiatives. How do you all work on that? Arsenio, do you have requirements for what must go to local businesses, minority businesses, women-owned businesses, and things like that? And how do you handle that? And Jenny, how are you looking at handling that as we have this influx of dollars?
Well, we absolutely have a very strict procurement process. It's something that we are required to abide by and make sure that we meet every aspect of that. We've also got board policy that we have to live by too. And part of that board policy is making sure we support our community and work with local vendors when we can. So through this process, we want to make sure that we have all these processes in place to make sure that we accurately go through the procurement process, accurately make sure that we are through new construction and through remodel projects, either with systems or entire facilities, that we're meeting all updated code. And that in itself changes regularly so that's another area that we want to make sure that we are very confident in. And then of course, making sure that we are following our local board policy in working with our local community. And so all these pieces work together, but Gordian, again, I keep saying this, they help kind of take the pressure off with some of these areas. And that allows me to continue to spend my time where I feel is important, is just, working with students and teachers and of course our principals.
So when Gordian goes out, so when a new client puts a solicitation in place, whether that be through a national contract, a cooperative contract, or their own contract, Gordian pre-qualifies and awards to local contractors. All of our contractors have been local contractors or awarded to local contractors. All the subcontractors that the contractor may bring on, our client is then able to review their information and approve their information. We encourage local participation, not only local, but veteran, woman-owned, small business contractors. So we really go out and try to recruit these classification of vendors. So that way we ensure that we meet our clients' reporting requirements to ensure that they are contracting with minority-owned contractors, small business, veteran-owned business contractors. So we have that capability to do so. And at the end of the day, all of our clients are able to approve the subcontractor list as well.
Very, very good. We are getting close to the end, but we have time for another question. So should we have one, buddy? Do we have any more questions? I think we may have answered all that were already submitted, but we certainly have time for one.
Pete, I know that some people are interested in those standalone HEPA filters. If you'd like, I can send you some information on the different choices that are out there that might at least get, allow for some of the people listening in today to look to see what they like, see if it meets their needs. I'll try to get you that information we can share with some of our listeners today.
We'd appreciate that. I know you mentioned you'd become an expert on areas you never become an expert in.
Absolutely.
So we'll give it just another couple seconds here in case we have another question that comes in through the Q&A box. And while we're with that piece, Arsenio, how have you had to engage and involve your board in this process?
Well, of course, boards are very important because they are the keepers of the budget. And so these are very expensive projects that we're talking about. hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So they need to be along every step of the way, from the 5-year master plans to how we're using our bond dollars, and really learning together how we're using these federal dollars. And again, I know that for myself, and I think I can speak for many of our listeners out there, that we're still learning the rules of how we are able to spend these federal dollars. And again, I think that what we try to do is really think outside the box and really look at how we can leverage these federal dollars because they're one-time dollars. This isn't reoccurring money. How can we leverage these dollars to have the most impact for not only now, but for years to come? And that is definitely something we have our board involved in because they are the ones that approve not only our master plans, our projects, our procurements that we have, but also they are going to approve those budget dollars. So it's important to have your board involved in every step of the way, making sure that they have as much information as possible. So when it does come to a vote, they're as informed as possible to make sure that we have the right choices moving forward.
Fantastic. No,
Can I say,
on this. Yes, please jump in,
Can I
Jenny.
say
Jump
something?
in. Please.
so I just wanted to just chime in a little bit on, with our board process. We had a couple of different phase projects go through the board, and under the tight timeline that we were facing to procure these projects for our school district, when our facilities director was able to present these projects, the projects and the price proposals themselves were not held up, and there were very limited questions that the board had pertaining to the price proposal or the contractors that were presented to perform the work. And that was because the proposals were so detailed. They didn't have that labor, material, and equipment lump sum that they were used to seeing. So they felt very confident that they were receiving a transparent price proposal as well as an accurate proposal, which made it very nice for our school district when they went in front of the board. So, we were very surprised that they didn't have as many questions as they have in the past, but, it made the process really smooth. And I think for our facilities director, it was a sigh of relief because the first time they went up, they were approved and we were able to move forward, which they were very happy on. So I think the transparency component really puts board members at ease that they're not overpaying for something. And we try to answer all those questions that they may have in that proposal review process to make it easier for those facility directors and our superintendents to present to the board. So I think that makes it very helpful for them.
I agree.
Very good. Thank you. Folks, we have a we have a rule that we always end up. We've got about 90 seconds left. Here's a question that, Jenny, so you're gonna have to be quick on this one. If a district has not used job order contracting, is there a need to prepare either the school board policies, additional design build used as primary method, or the construction community? Do you have to prepare them for that? Jenny?
I'm going to refer to Scott Lee. Can you help me out with that one, Scott?
Or Arsenio, did you have to do any policies to adapt this new format?
Well, my first thought is that, one is that I can speak as a superintendent in New Mexico. So one is definitely, we do have to make sure that this is flows with our state rules and regulations concerning procurement, which it does. And the second is we do have policy in place that allows for us to be able to work with these local contractors and work with these set price points to be able to take advantage of the best price possible. So my advice right now is to make sure that it does meet your local state requirements for procurement. And then yes, it would always going to help that to make sure that your policy flows with what you're trying to do with job order contracts.
And that is true. So a state should, look at their procurement laws within that state, but each state has the ability to procure off a cooperative or a national contract, like an NJPA contract, something like that. But I would ask them to look at their state procurement laws. But typically what we can do is implement their own job order contracting program, which would be similar to an on-call contractors.
Folks, it is 3 o'clock. We always end ours on time. Superintendent Romero, thank you so much for sharing. We wish you the best, a happy, healthy, and safe construction season you're heading into. Thank you for what you do for children. And Jenny, thank you very much, Jenny Ramirez, for what you do, helping schools and districts get the most value for their dollar to help students. We're quite grateful. To all of our listeners, be careful, be safe. We appreciate what you do contributing to the lives of children. Thank you very much, folks. Have a wonderful day today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Right, thank you. And thank you, Pete, for moderating for us, and Jenny and Arsenio for your insights and for being with us today. And with that said, I would also like to thank our attendees for joining us today. For those of you who enjoyed our presentation, there are many more upcoming web seminars like this one that are provided by District Administration, which is the leader in editorial coverage of news and trends and current issues in K through 12. Our wide range of readers subscribe for free to DA, and they stay up to date with us through our print magazine, the digital edition, our newsletters, including DA Daily, which is our daily newsletter, and DA Tech, which features the most relevant ed tech stories in K through 12, as well as web seminars like this one. Also, for those of you who would like to watch this web seminar again, or for those of you, who believe that the solutions provided would be really helpful to your colleagues, you will be pleased to know that an archive recording of this web seminar will be available at the URL provided on your screen. And you can also expect to receive an email from our team later today, which will include a link to all of the slides. So with that, on behalf of District Administration, this is Stephen Blackburn. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your spring semester. Take care, be well, and stay safe, everyone.
Thanks, Stephen.